The Royal Foundation Gala was meant to project elegance, unity, and stability. But behind the polished image, one request sparked a private clash. Camilla reportedly wanted Princess Charlotte's position changed before the event began. William refused. Calmly but firmly, he drew a line that changed the atmosphere in the room. What looked like a simple seating adjustment quickly became a deeper disagreement over family, legacy, and the future of the monarchy. Before we continue, subscribe so you never miss our latest royal updates. William understood the importance of the evening. The Royal Foundation Gala, closely connected to the charitable work of the Prince and Princess of Wales, was designed to highlight duty, service, and the future of the royal family. Charlotte's place had been chosen carefully. She was not there as decoration. Her position reflected her place as the daughter of the future king. Camilla viewed the arrangement differently. After reviewing the seating plan, she suggested that Charlotte be moved before guests arrived. She presented it as a minor adjustment made for balance and presentation. But William interpreted the request differently. To him, it sounded like an attempt to shift his daughter away from the center of the family's image. Catherine noticed the tension immediately. She watched William's expression change and realized the request had crossed a boundary. Charlotte was not someone to be repositioned for convenience. She was their daughter and an important part of the monarchy's future. William declined the request without raising his voice. His response was enough to stop the conversation. Camilla appeared surprised, expecting a compromise that would keep the evening running smoothly. Instead, William made it clear that public harmony would never come at Charlotte's expense. The mood inside the room shifted. Catherine remained silent, but her support was obvious. Camilla looked around and realized this was no ordinary disagreement. William was setting a clear boundary and showing that he intended to protect his children's place within the family. What began as a discussion over seating became something much larger. It raised a difficult question: who would shape the next generation of the royal family? Charlotte never spoke, yet her presence carried meaning. To William, she represented legacy, responsibility, and the future. To Catherine, she was still a young girl learning how demanding royal life could be. To Camilla, Charlotte's position had become a symbol that carried greater significance than expected. As preparations continued, William stayed focused. He knew every entrance, every photograph, and every seating arrangement would be examined by the public. This was more than a charity event. It was an opportunity to present the future of the monarchy, and even a small change could send a powerful message. Catherine felt that pressure as well. She watched Charlotte while staff finalized the details, checking names, timing, and placements. Everything appeared calm on the surface, but Catherine understood how much attention her daughter was receiving. Charlotte remained composed, though Catherine sensed the pressure surrounding her. Every movement seemed meaningful inside a room where tradition and hierarchy mattered. Camilla believed the original arrangement placed too much attention on Charlotte. She framed her concern as a matter of balance, suggesting that moving the young princess slightly away from the center would create a smoother presentation. William disagreed. To him, Charlotte was not an adult royal involved in palace politics. She was a child who deserved protection. King Charles was informed before the preparations continued. He reviewed the briefing paper, paused when he reached Charlotte's name, and quietly set the document aside. A briefing paper simply provides senior royals with important information before decisions are made, but this one carried emotional weight. Charles knew that supporting either side could create lasting tension within the family. Sophie noticed the change in Catherine before anyone spoke openly. She saw the determination in the princess's expression whenever Charlotte's name came up. Catherine had already decided she would stand beside her daughter. William recognized that silent support, and it strengthened his resolve. To Camilla, the seating plan seemed like a routine adjustment. To William, it felt like a test. If Charlotte's place could be changed once without objection, it could happen again. He believed protecting her position meant protecting the future of his family. The emotions surrounding the gala did not begin that evening. They reached back to an earlier incident that remained fresh in William's memory. Several weeks before the gala, during a private rehearsal for a royal youth reception at Windsor, Charlotte was quietly moved from beside Catherine to a position near the end of the receiving line. William noticed it immediately. Catherine saw the disappointment on Charlotte's face. Camilla described the decision as another attempt to create balance, but for William, it left a lasting impression. The Windsor Youth Reception was designed to allow young guests to greet senior members of the royal family in a carefully planned receiving line. In royal events, the order of that line carries symbolic importance. often reflecting status and visibility. Catherine watched Charlotte straighten her shoulders and regain her composure after being moved. Most people never noticed the moment, but a mother did. She saw the confusion and quiet disappointment hidden behind Charlotte's calm expression. Camilla defended the change by saying the arrangement looked more balanced and orderly. She insisted there was no deeper meaning behind it. William, however, believed otherwise. From that moment on, he became determined that his daughter's place would not be quietly changed again. If you'd like, I can also rewrite the entire script in a more engaging documentary style that keeps all the key points while improving retention and flow for YouTube. The words sounded carefully chosen, calm, polished, and almost rehearsed. To William, that polished tone made the request even more concerning. Behind the smooth explanation, he believed there was a deeper intention. After the rehearsal, William addressed the issue privately. He did not lose his temper or raise his voice, but his message was unmistakable. His children would not be quietly repositioned to make someone else more comfortable. Charlotte was not a piece to be moved around for the sake of palace optics or public perception. Catherine stood beside him throughout the conversation. She understood that William was speaking from a place of protection, not anger. He was defending his daughter and making it clear that certain boundaries would no longer be crossed. Later, a documented account from a senior aide involved in the rehearsal planning added another layer to the story. According to the account, Charlotte's position had been discussed before the rehearsal even began. That meant the adjustment had been planned in advance, rather than being a spontaneous decision. When William read the report, he began connecting the events. First there had been the Windsor rehearsal, then came the gala. First one request in the name of balance, followed by another. To him, it no longer looked like coincidence. Camilla reportedly viewed the matter differently. From her perspective, the changes were about order, presentation, and maintaining balance within the family's public image. William, however, saw something more significant. He believed it showed how easily a child's position could be altered when adults wanted the overall picture to tell a different story. That is why the request at the Royal Foundation Gala was never likely to succeed. By the time the event arrived, William was no longer responding to a single seating card or one uncomfortable conversation. He was responding to what he believed was a growing pattern. So when Camilla raised the issue again on the evening of the gala, William was prepared. The discussion reportedly took place away from the cameras in a private room, far from the attention of guests. The sounds of the gala faded into the background while the conversation focused on one final decision. Camilla entered calmly. William stood near the table where the finalized seating cards had been placed. Catherine watched William closely before turning her attention toward the Queen Consort. The atmosphere quickly became tense. Then the request was repeated. Camilla once again suggested that Charlotte's position should be adjusted before the event officially began. She described it as a small change that would help create balance throughout the evening. The final seating card, which identified where each royal would be positioned during the event, had already been approved. But within royal events, placement often carries symbolic meaning long before anyone speaks. William had personally reviewed the arrangement. He understood exactly why Charlotte had been placed where she was. Her position reflected unity with Catherine while remaining natural enough to avoid appearing staged. It had been carefully planned, thoughtfully balanced, and after everything that had happened at Windsor, it was not open for negotiation. Camilla continued speaking in a measured tone. She argued that the evening needed better balance and suggested that Charlotte's placement might draw unnecessary attention. She expressed concern that the public could read too much into where the young princess was standing. To William, however, the explanation sounded familiar. He heard the same words he had heard before: balance, harmony, presentation. The same careful language that had already been used to justify moving Charlotte once before. This time, he refused to let those words hide what he believed was the real meaning behind the request. Catherine quietly stepped closer to the table. She did not interrupt the conversation or speak over anyone. She simply moved close enough for William to know she stood firmly beside him. Her presence also made something clear to Camilla. Charlotte was not facing this situation alone. As a mother, Catherine understood how easily a child could become a symbol within royal life. She also knew how often children were expected to accept those pressures without complaint. That was not something she was willing to allow. William placed his hand gently over the seating card before looking directly at Camilla. His response was brief. Charlotte's position would remain exactly as it was. There was no long explanation, no dramatic speech, and no raised voices. The simplicity of his answer gave it even greater impact. The discussion ended the moment he made his decision. Camilla had likely expected a conversation that left room for compromise. Instead, she encountered a firm boundary that could not be moved. For a brief moment, her composed expression reportedly shifted. She looked from William to Catherine, recognizing that they were completely united. William was not acting alone, and Catherine was not standing silently in the background. Together, they had chosen to protect Charlotte, and that shared determination made their position impossible to change. Although the discussion ended, the larger issue remained unresolved. The request itself had failed, but the disagreement raised a much bigger question. If William could reject Camilla's proposal regarding Charlotte's place, then who truly held the influence to shape the image of the next generation of the royal family? William's answer was not delivered through speeches or public statements. It was demonstrated through quiet authority. His refusal was not driven by emotion alone. It reflected growing confidence in the responsibilities he believed already belonged to him. William was no longer behaving like someone simply waiting for the future. He was acting as though the future had already arrived. That change did not require dramatic words to be noticed. By protecting Charlotte's position, William believed he was also protecting how the next generation of the monarchy would be presented to the public. He did not want those decisions quietly rewritten behind closed doors. The Royal Foundation Gala gave him more than a ceremonial role. As the senior royal leading the event alongside Catherine, William had significant influence over how the evening would be organized, how the family would appear together, and how future generations would be represented before the public. Because the gala celebrated charitable work, public service, and royal responsibility, every detail carried added importance. Even something as simple as where family members stood or sat could shape public perception. Catherine strengthened William's position simply by remaining at his side. In that moment, she was not only the Princess of Wales or William's wife, she was Charlotte's mother, William's closest partner, and someone equally determined to protect her children while presenting a united vision for the future of the monarchy. She was not only William's partner in royal duties, Catherine was also the quiet strength behind the family image that so many people trusted. Her presence made one thing unmistakably clear. William's refusal was not driven by pride or stubbornness. It was a shared decision rooted in protecting their daughter. Charles sensed the pressure before saying a single word. The king understood why Camilla wanted reassurance that her place within the family still carried influence as attention gradually shifted toward William and Catherine. At the same time, he also understood his son's determination. To William, Charlotte was never just another detail on a seating chart. She was his daughter, and as the future king, he believed it was his responsibility to protect her from becoming part of adult disagreements. Camilla wanted some indication that her voice still mattered. She hoped William might compromise, even slightly, to show that her opinion continued to carry weight within the family. But William refused to offer that reassurance if it meant changing Charlotte's place. He believed that once a child's position could be adjusted simply to ease tension between adults, similar requests would continue to appear in different forms. Later, Charles reviewed the finalized seating arrangement on his own. He paused when he reached Charlotte's name before quietly approving the plan without making any changes. A seating arrangement is simply the planned order of where guests and members of the royal family sit or stand during an official event. Within royal life, however, those placements often symbolize rank, unity, and family relationships. The king's approval finalized the arrangement without the need for a public announcement. Camilla understood the significance immediately. No explanation was necessary. Charles had chosen not to overrule William. Instead, he allowed the prince's judgment to remain in place. To Camilla, that silent approval confirmed something she had already begun to fear. William's voice now carried genuine influence inside palace decisions, especially whenever Catherine and Charlotte were involved. With that approval, the decision became permanent, and the atmosphere around the room quietly changed. William had protected his daughter. Catherine had stood firmly beside him. Charles had allowed the decision to stand. Camilla, meanwhile, was left facing a refusal she could no longer change. Before the gala had even begun, she realized that something inside the family had shifted. She did not react dramatically. Instead, she became unusually quiet. After the decision was confirmed, Camilla reportedly spent several minutes alone while preparations for the gala continued outside the room. There had been no public disagreement, no official statement, and no visible scene. Yet within that silence, she understood exactly what had happened. William had refused her request. Catherine had fully supported him. Charles had not stepped in to reverse the decision. For Camilla, that silence carried greater weight than any public embarrassment ever could. The final gala arrangement remained exactly as William intended, leaving Charlotte's position unchanged. The gala arrangement referred to the planned order in which members of the royal family would appear throughout the evening. In royal events, those positions often communicate status, unity, and influence before anyone speaks. On this occasion, the final arrangement suggested that William's judgment had prevailed. William did not celebrate the outcome. His decision had never been about defeating Camilla or proving authority. He believed Charlotte's place mattered, and changing it would have sent the wrong message before the evening had even begun. He understood the consequences of refusing the request, but he believed giving in over something that appeared small could have created a much larger problem later. Catherine experienced relief, though she never viewed the moment as a victory. She understood that Charlotte had been drawn into an adult disagreement she never asked to be part of. That reality troubled her more than the disagreement itself. Catherine stood beside William because she believed silence could sometimes become acceptance. Even so, she carried the sadness of knowing that her daughter's name had become connected to a conflict far beyond her years. Before the evening continued, Sophie quietly checked on Catherine. The trusted confidant noticed that Catherine appeared composed in public but seemed far more emotional in private. She sensed that the princess was carrying more than she wanted others to see. Sophie chose not to ask questions. Instead, she remained close enough to offer quiet support. Catherine understood the gesture without either of them needing to say a word. Meanwhile, Charles did not immediately approach Camilla after the discussion. For her, that absence only deepened the disappointment. The king neither challenged her nor attempted to comfort her. He did not reopen the discussion or suggest revisiting the decision. His silence felt final. Camilla understood what it represented. Charles had chosen not to intervene after William's refusal, and that decision may have been more difficult to accept because it came without confrontation or explanation. Staff members were reportedly instructed not to reopen the matter. That guidance made the decision feel official, even though no public statement was ever released and nothing was formally announced. Camilla recognized that there were now clear limits regarding William's children that she could not cross. Catherine remained emotionally shaken because protecting Charlotte had come with personal cost. William appeared calm on the surface, but he also understood that the atmosphere inside the family had changed. The gala had not even started, yet the emotional impact of the disagreement had already settled over everyone involved. Camilla's request had been refused. Charlotte's place had been protected. Catherine had witnessed the emotional cost of both, yet the evening's most significant moment still lay ahead. Later that night, William and Camilla reportedly found themselves together once more, this time without aides, protocol, briefing papers, or anyone else present to soften the conversation. Away from official ceremony and palace routine, the disagreement became far more personal. The most meaningful exchange of the evening did not happen before photographers or invited guests. It took place in a smaller, quieter room after every decision had already been made. There were no advisors, no official documents, no carefully arranged audience, only two members of the royal family facing the consequences of everything that had unfolded throughout the evening. Only William and Camilla remained, standing in the silence that followed a refusal neither of them could ignore. For the first time that evening, the disagreement was no longer about where Charlotte would stand at the gala. It had become a conversation about trust. William agreed to speak with Camilla privately because he knew the issue could not be resolved through formal royal language alone. The seating plan had already been finalized, giving the discussion a different level of importance. In royal settings, an arrangement refers to the agreed order of positions, roles, and appearances during an event. Once that arrangement is confirmed, changing it sends a message far beyond simple logistics. Camilla finally asked the question she had been holding back. The queen consort wanted to know whether William truly believed she had been trying to diminish Charlotte's place. Her voice reflected both hurt and uncertainty, because his refusal had done more than protect his daughter. It had also highlighted what she feared was her own fading influence within the family. More than anything, she wanted William to tell her that he had misunderstood her intentions. William answered with care. He never accused Camilla of acting out of cruelty, nor did he suggest she had deliberately targeted Charlotte. Instead, he calmly explained that he would never allow his children to feel as though they could be moved aside simply to make palace life more comfortable for others. His words carried more weight because they were spoken without anger. They cut through every polite explanation, every carefully chosen phrase, and every claim that the adjustment had been insignificant. Camilla then admitted something she had not expressed during the earlier discussion. According to a private account later shared with a senior household advisor, she acknowledged feeling increasingly pushed to the edge of the family's future image. She watched William, Catherine, and their children become the public face of the monarchy and feared she was gradually being left outside that picture, still important in title, but losing influence in practice. William listened carefully and recognized that her feelings were genuine. He understood that change within the royal family could feel difficult and even painful. But despite acknowledging her concerns, he remained firm. He would not allow Charlotte to carry the weight of an adult's insecurities. His daughter would never be expected to step back so someone else could feel more secure. Nor would any of his children be asked to make themselves smaller for the comfort of others. At that moment, Camilla realized the refusal reached far beyond a seating arrangement. She had not simply lost a discussion over one gala position. She had encountered a boundary William intended to defend whenever his children were involved. And because Catherine stood beside him with complete support, his position represented a united family decision rather than a temporary emotional reaction. Although the tension eased slightly, it never completely disappeared. William had spoken with restraint, while Camilla had revealed a deeply personal fear. Charlotte's place remained exactly where it had been planned, and the disagreement forced the royal family to confront emotions that ceremony alone could no longer conceal. The palace managed to keep the conversation private, but it could not control what people would notice the following day. By morning, one image came to define the entire evening. Charlotte stood confidently beside Catherine. William was positioned nearby, slightly turned toward them, while Camilla appeared separated, her composed expression impossible to overlook. The newspapers did not need access to the private conversation to understand the public symbolism. What had started as a disagreement over seating now looked like something much larger. To many observers across Britain, the arrangement reflected more than family protocol. It suggested that influence within the monarchy was gradually shifting toward William, Catherine, and their children. William's decision had carried through the night unchanged. The official gala photographs showed Charlotte exactly where she had been placed from the beginning, close to Catherine and surrounded by the quiet support of her immediate family. Gala photographs are the official images released from major royal events, and they often become the lasting visual record of how the royal family presents itself to the public. This time, those photographs seemed to tell a stronger story. Without speaking a single word, Catherine became the emotional center of the public reaction. Standing beside Charlotte with calm confidence, she projected both maternal warmth and royal composure. Many people interpreted her presence not as a celebration of Camilla's disappointment, but as a mother quietly protecting her daughter from becoming part of an unnecessary public conflict. That quiet dignity gave the photographs lasting impact. Supporters of Camilla viewed the images differently. To them, the queen consort appeared separated from the warmth surrounding William's family. Some argued that William could have softened his position, that Catherine might have encouraged a compromise, and that Charlotte did not necessarily need to remain so prominently placed. Those opinions, however, only strengthened the arguments made by William's supporters. Many believed the prince had done exactly what a father should do. They saw him protecting his child before protecting adult pride or palace politics. He refused to move Charlotte simply to ease tension, and he would not allow Camilla's concerns to become Catherine's responsibility. By the next morning, that quiet decision had become the center of a national conversation. One London newspaper captured the public mood with a striking headline printed beneath a photograph of Charlotte standing beside Catherine. "The future stays in place." The phrase quickly spread across television broadcasts, newspaper columns, and public discussion. Royal commentators described the image as more than a family photograph. To many, it symbolized that the next chapter of the monarchy was already taking shape around William, Catherine, and their children. Outside Kensington Palace, the public reaction became increasingly personal. A small crowd gathered near the palace gates, and one woman summed up the feelings of many when she told a television reporter, "He did what a father should do." That single sentence cut through every layer of royal protocol and public debate. It reduced the entire controversy to one simple idea: Charlotte had been protected. William remained firm throughout the entire evening. Catherine stood beside him, quietly carrying the emotional weight of every difficult moment. Camilla could not ignore the message that had been delivered. The queen consort was never publicly identified as the losing side, Yet those closest to the situation understood that something important had changed. While the palace successfully kept the disagreement out of public view, it could not control how people interpreted what they eventually saw. Public opinion gave William additional support, but the lasting significance of the evening depended on what the royal family chose to accept afterward. In the end, the true meaning of the gala was not determined by newspaper headlines or television commentary. It was revealed through the silence that followed inside the family itself. Only after the attention faded did the full meaning of the Royal Foundation Gala become clear. Charlotte remained exactly where she had been placed. William kept the promise he had made. Catherine protected her daughter without allowing the evening to become a public spectacle. Camilla was left facing the limits of the influence she believed she still held. And Charles, by choosing not to reverse William's decision, quietly revealed where the monarchy's future was beginning to stand. From beginning to end, William's refusal remained the defining moment of the gala. Even after the immediate pressure had passed, the prince never reconsidered his position. He did not reopen the discussion or allow the finalized plan to be changed. The final arrangement referred to the officially approved order of where each member of the royal family would sit or stand during the event. On this occasion, however, that arrangement carried far greater emotional significance than anyone expected. Charlotte's place remained untouched, despite every attempt to reconsider it. Catherine understood exactly what that represented. To her, Charlotte's position had become much more than a detail on a seating chart. It now symbolized something larger, that the next generation of the royal family would not be quietly repositioned whenever palace convenience or tradition demanded it. Throughout the evening, Catherine witnessed the growing tension, felt the pressure behind closed doors, and experienced the emotional strain that surrounded the disagreement. Even so, she stood beside William from beginning to end without allowing the situation to become a public confrontation. Camilla left the gala carrying her own disappointment. She had not been criticized before guests. No public statement had singled her out. There had been no dramatic confrontation in front of cameras. In many ways, that made the experience even more difficult. Her private request had been declined, and everyone who understood the quiet exchanges behind the scenes recognized exactly what that refusal meant. Camilla had asked for influence. The family's answer remained unchanged. William carried his own burden as well. Protecting Charlotte came at a personal cost because even necessary decisions can leave lasting emotional wounds within a family. He understood that Camilla felt increasingly pushed aside. He knew Charles had been placed in an uncomfortable position between his wife and his son. He also recognized how much emotional strength Catherine had shown while quietly supporting him through every stage of the evening. Yet one belief remained stronger than everything else. William believed that no child should ever be expected to carry the weight of adult insecurities. Later, Catherine shared a quiet moment alone with Charlotte. With warmth and reassurance, she made it clear that her daughter had done absolutely nothing wrong. Charlotte never needed to apologize for where she had been placed, nor should she ever feel guilty for standing where she belonged. Her position was not an act of defiance, it was simply her rightful place within her family. Charlotte listened carefully. In that small private conversation, much of the emotional pain surrounding the evening quietly disappeared. The child had never been the problem. The pressure placed around her had been. Charles's silence ultimately became a statement of its own. The king did not challenge William's decision. He did not reverse the finalized arrangement, nor did he attempt to shield Camilla from the meaning behind William's refusal. By remaining silent, Charles confirmed what many had already begun to sense. The future king had drawn a clear boundary. The reigning king had allowed that boundary to remain. In many ways, the monarchy changed not through speeches, official announcements, or formal declarations. It changed through that silence. William demonstrated that his understanding of duty would always begin with his own family. He showed that protecting his children came before palace convenience, before wounded feelings, and before traditions that no longer reflected the future he wanted to build. No additional statement was needed. No correction followed. No palace explanation became necessary. The answer had already been given through actions rather than words. Charlotte remained in her place. William stood by his decision, and the royal family quietly moved into a new chapter shaped by that single refusal. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest royal updates. We'll see you in the next video.